Hi, I'm Dan Stanton, the editor and founder of Bioprocess Insider. Welcome to the BPI Theater at BIO, quite clearly not at BIO, but being done virtually. We're going to be talking about the evolving role of the outsourcing manufacturer. Throughout the pharma industry, third-party manufacturing partners have become more than simple contract suppliers. No more is this evident than in the biologics manufacturing space, as outsourcing firms respond to the needs of the end user and increase their offerings and technologies to provide progressively end-to-end services. This panel aims to look at how CMOs have added the development D, so to speak, and evolved into CDMOs within the biomanufacturing space, and how the importance of offering these auxiliary services has shaped the outsourcing landscape. To help get to grips with this concept, I'm delighted to be joined by Dan Sloan, the VP and Head of Downstream Manufacturing at Samsung Biologics, and Magnus Schroeder, the VP of Process Development at Avid Bioservices. Dan, Magnus, welcome.
Thank you.
Hello.
I think to start, if you could both take it in turns to just explain how you and your company sit within the biologics manufacturing space. We can use that as a bit of a foundation. So Dan, do you want to begin?
Sure. A little bit of history. So we started out 2011, built our first facility because this was Samsung's first sort of footstep into the biological pharmaceutical arena. We took it slow and we built a relatively medium to small size facility, 5K, 6 by 5,000, primarily just as a medium scale CMO. That worked quite well. We expanded to a 10 by 15,000 liter operation, which then led to another third facility, which is a 12 by 15. In addition to that, we added two 1,000 liter operations, mostly for clinical operations. And as these matured, we saw we needed other areas to help our clients. And since over the past 2 to 3 years, we've expanded to almost a completely end-to-end operation where we've got cell line development now, working cell banking. We can do master cell banking all the way through our finish fill operations. And we just recently added complete viral testing, and that entire operation is on one campus.
Fantastic. Thank you, Dan. And Magnus, if you'd like to do the same about Avid.
Yeah, absolutely. So our journey was a little different in that we started actually as an innovator company called Peregrine that built their own facility primarily to supply their own clinical pipeline, and Avid Bioservices was run as a subsidiary of Peregrine, supporting some client work. And we actually started with a commercial program right from the beginning. So the site is one campus and has been supplying commercial material to the market for close to 17 years. And really things started to kick off maybe 2 to 3 years ago when Peregrine still built their own new clinical facility where we have up to 3 times 2,000 liter single-use bioreactors. Downstream is fully disposable. And then in 2018, it was essentially decided to fully dedicate to being a CDMO. And that's what we've been doing now, supporting our clients from early to late phase, as well as continuing the commercial clinical supply, commercial and clinical supply for our clients.
Once again, interesting to know, but also interesting to see that we have two third-party manufacturers essentially here, but they both have very different stories, and both Samsung Biologics and Avid Bioservices have gone from being basic contract manufacturers to adding further services. Specifically on the development side, so at Samsung, I believe a couple of years ago, you moved into that space and added cell line development and process development. And Avid, you've also been adding these services quite recently. For example, you've teamed up with Aragon to help your clients and offer more comprehensive services. I mean, these are two very different approaches. If you could, Dan, if you could talk us through that kind of decision to move into the development space and what sort of challenges Samsung Biologics saw there, that would be great from your point of view.
So I think when we did recognize that early phase cell line development, even our own cell line, would be advantageous to potential clients. There's so many new small biotechs out there that have encouraging drugs, and they need a space to move that up through a regular supply chain that develops into a clinical supply, IND cooperation, and submissions through the commercial operation. So we looked at our current footprint, and that was a missing link. And so we're finding people that are having to transfer in at some stage, early stage to later stage. And so you're doing multiple types of tech transfers, multiple types of operations to confirm. And so we opened up that space, and it's been extremely successful. And that's the other, I think, part of everything that you do as a CMO is you give them the opportunities, your clients' opportunities for space, but you also have to deliver on that space. And that's our focus right now, is delivering on all of our spaces.
Magnus, talk us through how Avid progressed and evolved into that space.
Absolutely. Of course, we clearly recognize that, especially for early phase programs, the cell line piece is a critical component to be able to provide that to our clients. So it was always integral for us to be able to have something that we can to clients. But our landscape is also sometimes that we transfer in existing processes that already have a cell line fully developed. So we always felt internally that, you know, we might prefer to partner with different CLD providers that are out there that provide independent CLD programs. And I think what plays to our advantage here is the geographic location being on the West Coast. There's some really strong technology available up in the Bay Area that we can really tap into. And we felt that's right now, that's the better model for us, because there's certain cell line technologies that are really helpful for certain programs, but not every client is interested in specific technology. And here we can really choose and partner with the best and really tailor it to the clients what they need best. And we build strong relationships with those CLD providers like Aragon. So it's almost as if we were doing it internally as well. So that was the idea behind not installing our own CLD program at the moment.
But quite clearly, both of you or both of your companies see the huge merit in offering extended services to your customer base. Essentially, if you're offering these early processes or these early process development, does that give you a partner for life? Does that give you what people call a strategic partner rather than sort of just a sort of basic service deal? Are we seeing a real move towards strategic partnerships because of these extra services that are being added? Dan?
I think we're recognizing that now as these we call CDO projects are moving up out of CDO into our smaller scale, or 1,000 liters. We're seeing them looking at the commercial side in the future, and we're also seeing other projects coming in from those same clients. So it does seem to have payoff and merit, which is our objection, what our objective was. It also gives the client and us a better platform and more confidence in what we're doing.
Magnus?
So it has been very strategic. Yeah, thank you.
Magnus,
yeah,
absolutely.
I can clearly see that, you know, we cater for the client needs, and depending on the proteins that we work with, I mean, it really evolves now strongly from the classic monoclonal antibodies into more sophisticated constructs, and we see that there can be certain technologies that are needed for one program that some of our partners can supply, but they're not needed for others. So we really prefer, of course, to have a strong pipeline of partners that we work with. And, you know, probably they will evolve into strategic partnerships more and more as we continue to work with our partners. I can see that. But you can also see some clients have preferences for certain companies to work with, and we always listen to what our clients want. So ultimately, we choose our service providers that we work with together with our clients. And
so, I mean, it's kind of a mixed bag. I think, well, you know, I've never worked at a CDMO, quite clearly, but I get the impression that if you can get in there early with a client or a prospective client, you theoretically could get them for life as their project goes from the very early stages all the way through the clinic and or hopefully towards commercialization. So that's obviously got to be a boon for a CDMO.
Yeah, especially when these companies may not and likely do not have facilities on their own to scale up. So it gives them that platform at the same address.
Yeah, I think for us, it's been always, you know, a clear message that if a client partners with us, we can take them essentially from the first time the cell line is being created up to a BLA filing and commercial supply on the same campus. And those are multi-year programs, so we clearly recognize it. It might not be for life, but it's surely it's a very long long relationship we're talking here.
Interesting. And I actually want to pick up something you said a few minutes ago, Magnus, regarding geographical location. And obviously you're based on the West Coast. And I know Samsung Biologics is is expanding also onto the West Coast for its development services. And correct me if I'm wrong there, Dan. But is there something that's kind of integral about having development services where the market is, where which you don't sort of see in the manufacturing space? Is geography more important when we're looking at these sort of early phase auxiliary services?
Well, we're finding that it probably takes closer face-to-face collaboration with some of these early cell line development operations and clients. And so we're trying to open up spaces where these clients reside. So right now we're looking at the Bay Area. And then I think we have other sites that we're looking at too as well, so that we can give more of a geographic coverage.
And Magnus, you've already pointed out the importance of the West Coast there, but maybe you can elaborate why the West Coast is such a hotbed for development, for having development services being based there.
Yeah, I mean, we do work with clients that are global, of course, but it's still, I would say, with all the modern technology of conference calls and being, you know, in video conferences like this, I mean, it surely helps to accelerate programs, but still having the ability to actually personally get in touch with our clients, have them on site, maybe in short distance, so that strategies can be discussed, data can be reviewed face to face. I mean, it definitely helps with programs. Is it absolutely necessary? I don't think so, because we have many clients that we largely do with virtual conference calls with only the occasional one-on-ones. But it helps, right? And supply chains, exchanging biological material, it's something that we frequently do to send it out to our clients back and forth. Again, it helps to be closer, but it's not a necessity.
I guess
our current global situation isn't exactly helping either's case either.
you beat me to it there, Dan. Obviously, this is a brave new world we're entering, and I think everyone's getting more and more used to video conferencing and Zoom calls and the likes. I'm wondering how important it is for a third-party manufacturer. I mean, both of you offer developmental services and more to progress towards an end-to-end offering. But can a CMO exist in the biologics space as simply a manufacturing function, just capacity and bioreactors capacity without the auxiliary services attached? Can that still happen, or have we moved beyond that?
I think it's still it's still very favorable for us. Our facilities, our 3 big facilities, are heavily used, and we're looking at expansion as we speak. So yeah, I don't believe that that's an issue. We're heavily we're not exactly turning people away, but we really have to keep track of our bioreactor space.
And that's pure play on the manufacturing side without the kind of end-to-end element to it.
So because our CDO business is relatively young, we're just, as of next week, will be the first process that we've actually moved from CDO, from the 1,000 liter into our 5,000 liter operation. So those are just now starting to move through the system. Where primarily most of our operations are through a regular CMO at a commercial or phase 3, sometimes a little bit younger operations. At least in our commercial operations, the 1,000 has quite an array of clients.
And Magnus, if Avid was created today, as a CMO, would it feel the need that it has to offer developmental services or end-to-end services to be able to compete in this this fairly competitive field?
Well, I think from a manufacturing of drug substance perspective, I mean that makes a lot of sense. That we would keep the strategy that we have right now. And when you're talking about early and late phase programs, you know, you will have to have some development labs on site really to accelerate the programs and be faster with first in human or with commercial supply. So these 2 things, we would always keep them. I think the other things, for strategic and technical reasons, for example, the drug product manufacturing is typically done in other facilities. For the client, what we really focus on is to offer them that end-to-end view of their programs. Either we have the capability in-house, or we have those partnerships to offer them the end-to-end from essentially wild thaw to finished product, to be able to manage that on behalf of that. But I don't think you'd necessarily want to have everything in-house. I think every company has their own strategy, and some might find it valuable. For us right now, we really focus on the drug substance side, and we're we're talking exactly also about facility expansions by adding further bioreactor capacity to serve our client needs.
That's a great point you raise there about the drug product side. I mean, I think it is often forgotten, but we have seen some. There are obviously pure play drug product companies offering fill and finish, and I guess it's a very different skill set. But we are starting to see certain CMOs expanding, buying up facilities to offer drug product. Dan, remind me, I'm not sure if Samsung play in the drug product fill finish space, but go on.
So when we built the first facility, the first 5,000 liter, we had a drug substance, and we put in a drug product facility as well with lyophilizers. And when we built the first 15K, we added a second fill finish operation that's even bigger and faster. Both have very high capacities, and those are doing very well. And the original concept was to create a vial to vial, and vial was the customer sends us a vial, we thaw it, and we send them back a filled vial. Now we're going from cell to vial. So we've sort of expanded that whole horizon along with on-site viral testing.
And is it a challenge?
So those are doing
Is it a challenge having, is it a whole different skill set, a whole different set of expertise to have in place at a CMO? The drug product versus the drug substance?
Yeah, it's very clear that this is a very unique operation to drugs, different from the drug substance. It's a complete different animal, I guess, if you want to call it that. So we have dedicated groups, teams, and part of our facility that's totally dedicated just to that aspect. But we do get the services of our QC, we do get the services of our quality organization, and we also get the services from the supply chain operations of raw materials to shipping. So you get a lot of common services under the same umbrella, but you have a different skill set and different organization within your group. And those are all, again, on site in these facilities.
So
they've been looked at very favorably.
So we're talking about drug product there, but we've spoken about the CDO space. And what other service areas at Magnus are you sort of seeing more demand from customers? Are they asking for, I don't know, regulatory services or CRO service? Maybe not at Avid, but generally within the market, discovery services. What else do biopharma companies want as we move towards the sort of future landscape of the CMO space?
Yeah, it's a great question. Obviously, there's a really long value chain from really R&D up to the final commercial supply that we could tap into as a CDMO. I think we really look very carefully about what are we doing really best and what can we offer our clients and be really best in class with. And right now we're thinking that this early stage where we would bridge over from R&D into actually thinking about first in human IND applications and to continue with late phase characterization and commercial supply. That's kind of our sweet spot where we see our competencies and equipment best. But we have strategic partners that we can tap into. For example, if you're talking about transient protein expressions, to screen potential candidates earlier than we would engage with clients. We have those partners that we can direct clients to if they're just a little bit earlier than that. I think it's also becoming clearer that the analytical space is getting very sophisticated and there's very powerful equipment, but especially some mass spec assays or specific biointeraction assays, they can be very powerful for one protein and not really that useful for many others. So again, it's this make versus buy or partner versus bringing it in-house decision that we always face. And, I think we look at these things very carefully and make those choices where we think that we can offer something better than some partners would be, then we would go that route for sure.
I mean, that's really interesting that you have your own set of strategic partners to, I guess, outsource the outsourcing work to, in order to be able to offer the client the full program and whatever they need. Dan, does Samsung Biologics have a similar sort of relationship with other third parties?
The only third parties we typically use is if there's some unique analytical assay that we really don't have the instrumentation for, but those are minimal. So we do have a very full line of development, analytical method development, and then our QC development. We have the mass specs and all of the large array of equipment. So there's not many assays we're not capable of doing, and we have. I'm not going to say complete regulatory support, but it's expanding from the IND filings all the way through BLA and inspection support. And we're finding that's more and more valuable to especially these younger clients. Obviously, the mature pharmaceutical and big bio companies, they're totally on board. They're completely staffed and capable more than most of us in doing that. But we are being asked a lot, especially from young clients, do you have the regulatory support to get us through an IND? After we get the IND, can we further that? And we have those capabilities now.
With such wide-ranging services being offered by CMOs, CDMOs to their biopharma clients, I'm curious to know if there are any areas of the drug development, manufacturing, and commercialization space that either you think CDMOs should not be involved with, or really should be left to the end user to be doing. I don't know what your thoughts are there, Magnus.
Well, I think while we partner with our companies, ultimately the product is owned by our clients, and they have the full visibility into what their thoughts are on the clinical side and what really matters to them. So I think as much as we are a strategic partner to them, I think there's also a clear understanding that there's some things that our clients will own and are happy to own, because that's their baby essentially that we nurture through. So we really can contribute greatly to helping them on that, but we also recognize, of course, that some clients will always own their molecule and what their thoughts are about filing it themselves. So we leave that open, just how much we want and how much we can engage with them.
There is that line then, which the molecule is their product. We don't cross that line, and we never will, because once we do that, we're no longer a CDMO. Is that the case, Stan?
Well, it's absolutely true what Magnus was saying. They own the molecule. They also own the product license. So it is their product, and we are offering a service to get their product where they need it to be and at the quality that they need it to be. But it is 100% their product and their decisions on how they deal with their product.
And I mean, Magnus, Avid had this experience of being an end user with a CDMO business, and then moving solely into the CDMO space for strategic reasons. Could you ever envisage a kind of a reverse of that happening as a CDMO gets bigger and bigger, that they actually they have the expertise, they have the money, they can take the risk to develop a molecule themselves? Or has that sort of opportunity now gone from the biopharma CDMO space?
Well, I guess that's basically always a question of what the business strategy is. I think, there's certainly the capability, but I don't think at this moment in time we're really looking at that. I think we're really happy in the CDMO space and want to continue be the best partner for our clients to bring their molecules into the space.
And Dan, just from the Samsung Biologics point of view, you obviously have an interest in Samsung BioEpis there, which is an end user.
Yeah.
But these are two very separate businesses. Would there ever be a case where these two would come closer together?
I don't envision that happening. Currently, they contract us. They don't have to. They have several products that they have contracted us. They do a bidding just like any other client. If they accept our proposal, we'd give them the occupancy space, but they're almost entirely different entity to themselves. And whether or not Samsung Biologics itself gets into originator molecules, I don't want to say we never will, but right now it's not a focus.
Yeah, it's generally not the direction of travel that I've seen within the CDMO space, but it's an interesting concept. Yeah. What is the general general direction of travel in the CDMO space? Is a lot of M&A activity, a lot of tech investments and bolt-on deals. How have you both seen the space change within the last 10 years or so, and kind of how do you see it continuing to evolve over the next 5 or 10 years? Magnus?
Well,
I can start. I mean, the two major things I would see is capacity and speed. So I think capacity is something that we always look at because, yeah, of course, there have been massive improvements in building out facilities with pre-built blocks of GMP manufacture and single use has helped. But that's something that we see that it really accelerates how fast you can grow your capacity of bioreactors and downstream, and when you start making those decisions and how big. And the other one is speed. So anything that brings a client program faster to where they want to be by using, special technologies, novel cell line technologies, media and feeds, high throughput technologies, all of which we're kind of using to really shrink it down further and further to bring something to the clinic or commercially. I think that's what I've seen over the last couple of years, really shaving off many months of programs.
So investments into tech to really increase productivity and help speed the molecule through the clinic. Dan, same sort of question to you. What have you seen from the sort of the M&A landscape within the CDMO space over the past few years? And do you sort of see what Magnus is saying, there's going to be a continual flux of investment deals specifically in tech, or do you see something else?
I think globally you've seen a lot of M&A. You have for the last at least 10 years. You look at these companies that they've changed names and now they have these services they never had before, or they have product lines they never had before. Large pharmaceuticals are now in biological spaces. So that is very obvious. As far as what Magnus was alluded to, quickness to market, quickness to get it through the clinic, that was also part of our strategy of opening the CDO through the finish fill so that we literally can just go through the snake's belly, if you wish, of moving these products forward without having to transfer them to another facility or another country, so that we keep everything in-house end to end, and it does make those transitions much quicker because it's just internal transfers now between scale-ups. And assays, even assays get transferred. So the overall time frame of going from a new developed process through a clinical operation, through commercial, we see that is a very clear help in time. And then obviously we try and always build our facilities with the latest and fastest technology. Once you get to a certain space at 15K, there are limitations. But yeah, we're always looking for speed.
What about new modalities? I'm thinking specifically here, cell and gene therapies. I know neither of you two play in that space at the moment, but is the demand for specifically viral vector capacity, is that changing the CDMO landscape at all in your eyes? Dan, Magnus, want to come in there?
I think that's sort of a unique component of the business. I think it would be sort of a subsidiary sort of CMO more than in a pure mammalian cell biological operation. So we do see it. We're aware of it. We haven't done much with it.
I think from our end, it's very similar. Of course, we watch that space very, very, very carefully. I mean, it's obviously high growth, and the therapies that are being launched are really groundbreaking for many patients. So of course that's very exciting for them and something that we look at. However, it is a bit problematic to mingle viral production with conventional protein production. So we would have to segregation and building specific facilities for that. But that's certainly something that we're looking at and seeing if we can take that online, because some skills and some technologies that we use are very much transferable. It's
overlap.
It's not totally different.
And potentially, as the cell and gene therapy space matures, there may be more and more overlaps with the sort of technologies used in antibody production, for example. I guess also, though, that as you say, Magnus, there is a need for different sorts of facilities and need for different sorts of technologies at the moment, and specifically skill sets. And we mentioned skill sets when we're talking about drug product manufacture. With all these different skill sets, with all these bolt-on services that CMOs are adding, are there issues in getting the right staff, getting the right expertise? Everyone knows there are shortages of engineers in the biomanufacturing space, but the more services a CMO offers, the more staff it theoretically needs. And is staffing a problem within the industry? Are you seeing this?
Well, I think what's clear is despite all the technology and really new technology that's out there, it's still it's the people that move the product towards the finish line. So we clearly recognize, of course, our staff, our employees are our key. Ultimately, that's our key value, is the knowledge and the experience that our employees bring to us. So yeah, we really pride ourselves in recruiting the right personnel and putting in a lot of training, because there's a lot of talent out there that just needs to be introduced to maybe the world of CDMOs and just needs the right direction when it comes to biologics, either manufacturing or development. But we have plenty of young recruits essentially very close by that just need to go through a very good and strong introduction and training phase with good documentation. So that's where we put the focus internally, to really onboard people very quickly and get them up to speed, as well as, of course, keep existing employees happy and provide them continued opportunities within the facility and the company, which is growing. So it's always great for them.
And Dan, similar question. It's a competitive space, and there's only a certain amount of skilled staff out there. How do you balance that, and how do you ensure you have the right people?
So it took us a while to mature. We started with young staff, and we've since brought those staff levels up and trained. And then since then, we sort of send them out to our newer operations. We have an on-site, fully functional biological training system here with bioreactors and downstream equipment. It's separate. We have a very large capability of recruiting some of the top college recruits throughout the country and the world. So Korea is about the size of South Carolina. It has 50 million people and many, many major, very high-end universities. So we typically like to hire some of the best college graduates twice a year. And we bring an inboarding there. And so we recruit from the best universities, and then we also recruit outside worldwide, along with there are other biological companies in Korea, which we do sort of bring in as well. So we've been very fortunate in personnel. We have a very well-trained and very knowledgeable staffs now in all our sectors.
I think we're moving towards the end here, and I guess my final question is kind of unavoidable in the current climate. COVID-19. How has that already changed the CMO landscape, or maybe it hasn't? But how do you feel this is going to play out within the biopharma supply chain space? Has anyone got any thoughts on that?
We know that when it first sort of came to light that this was a global issue, we immediately in our supply chain side started overbuying and stocking raw materials for projects that maybe 6, 8, 9 months out. So we overbought to correct any shortcomings. The biggest difference I think we've seen is regulatory. Regulatory inspections sometimes are getting delayed now, or moved to a different format. Clients are now, they can't travel, so there's a lot of what we're doing now. The Zoom or other video conferencing. So it has completely changed the interaction face-to-face from our clients to our raw material suppliers to the regulatory agencies. So yeah, it's been quite a change.
Magnus, do you see that as well, or do you think this is going to continue even once we get to some sort of normality?
Yeah, I think it's the same here. That of course, supply chain wise, we really keep a very close eye on our suppliers and keep in close contact with them. I think so far we have not seen any major differences to the general supply chain challenges that this industry always has in a way, and we have to monitor closely. For our facility, we still fully support the manufacturing and any critical work, but we also see that many of our meetings and discussions can be done remotely via, for example, these formats, and they actually work pretty well. I would even say that some tasks might even work a little better with more focus now. So I think that's certainly something that we've seen, and will probably continue to operate remotely for some time with some people, depending on the task. I think it has worked remarkably well, I think.
Interesting stuff, and we'll obviously see how this whole situation develops. With that, Dan Sloan, Magnus Schroeder, I'd like to thank you both for joining me on this video conferencing platform today. And I really, really enjoyed and appreciated that conversation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good to meet you.
Thanks, Dan. Pleasure.